With 2022 ending, I figured this is the right time to make this video. Christmas had just came and went. People might have just got GTA. People might have been getting back into the game, haven't been playing for a few years. And this is going to be a video going over the businesses you should own. Businesses you should stay away from. Vehicles like bikes, sports cars, supercars, muscle cars, off-road, armored, Amani tech, weaponized, aircraft, and some honorable mentions. Now I'm going to have two vehicles from each of those categories, since I don't want to fill this whole video with just vehicles. And towards the end, I will have some important things to talk about, so make sure you stay to the end. And also, make sure you watch this whole video through before buying anything, because some vehicles will come in helpful with some of the businesses I'll mention earlier that I don't mention later. So make sure to stick around to the very end of the video before buying anything. Without further ado, let's move on to the businesses. So the first property I would recommend you buy is the agency. Now it's going to set you back about $2 million, so it is pretty expensive, but you'll be able to earn your money back very, very quickly. Now, there's three big reasons why the agency is at the very top of the list over everything. So the biggest reason is that it has a VIP contract. Now, what the VIP contract is, it's 11 separate missions you do, and at the very, very end, you complete all the missions, you get $1 million. Depending how fast you are and how good you are at doing the missions and how much knowledge you have, it can take you anywhere from an hour to like 2 hours to complete it. So it could be anywhere from $1 million every hour or $1 million every 2 hours. Now, the two other things about the agency that are really good is it has payphone hits, which are very, very easy assassination missions that you do. And if you do them correctly, you'll get 85,000. It'll take you about like 5 minutes to do them. And lastly, you'll have security contracts. These can give you anywhere from 30 to 70K. There's like 6 separate security contracts. I'm not sure. I can't really remember how many security contracts there are, but they're super, super simple missions. They're very easy to do. The max it'll take you to complete them is like 10 minutes. That's for the longest possible mission you can get. And they're just super easy. Now, if you need help on the agency, since I said that it's the first thing you should buy, I have 3 separate videos covering the VIP contract, payphone hits, and security contracts if you need to know any of those, how to do any of them. I'll link them in the description if you need help. Now, the next thing I recommend investing into after you buy the agency is the Casaca. Now, the reason for this is Cayo Perico. And the reason I had the agency over this is because Cayo Perico was nerfed. So if you're a new player, or even if you have, people to play with, or if you're solo or anything, there is still a long cooldown on Cayo Perico. So if you were to do it, then after that, you could do the VIP contract for the agency. So pretty much what you can do is you could do Cayo Perico. Then after that, you can do the VIP contract. You could do that about 2 times. And in about 3 or 4 hours, you can make to anywhere from 3 to 4 million if you actually know what you're doing. Now, if you also need help with Cayo Perico, I have a video on all the setups and everything for it, but the video I have for the actual heist itself is outdated. Do not watch that video if you're looking how to do the heist. I can make a separate video that's updated on that heist and everything. I'll probably do that. Not gonna really go into depth anymore with the Casaca. I just wanted to say that if Cayo Perico, you should buy the Casaca next after the agency is pretty much what I'm saying. Now, the most recent addition is the Acid Lab. This is probably the best business you can buy right now because it is dirt cheap in today's standards technically, and it's the easiest business you could run by yourself. Now, let's talk about how you even acquire this business. Now, when you first load into the game and you haven't played in the past like weeks or months or anything, then on your map in Sandy Shores, there's gonna be a mission. I can't remember what letter it is, but it's somewhere in Sandy Shores. The game pretty much tells you that it's for the Acid Lab. Now, after you go up and do that mission, after you completed all that stuff, it's going to reward you a property. Now, after you do that property, there is a few more missions you have to do. In total, there's 6 missions. After you do all those missions, you will unlock the Acid Lab truck itself. Now, after you get the Acid Lab truck, it's a super easy business to run because it's passive. Once you acquire it, you go inside the Acid Lab, buy supplies, and that's it. Now, the other important thing about the Acid Lab, if you do get it, you have to do 10 separate missions in order to get the upgrade for it, which the upgrade is super, super good. I would recommend getting it as soon as possible. Now, the person you call to get the missions that you have to do, there's 10 separate missions, as I said. You have to call Dax on your phone. When you call him, it'll say request work, and you have to do that. Now, the problem with this is I said 10 times you have to do these missions, and they have a 48-minute cooldown. So in total, I think it might take you around 10 hours if you do them back to back to back, but if you just kind of do them occasionally, eventually it will build up. And after you do that, you'll be able to get the upgrade for the Acid Lab. And in total, the Acid Lab itself and the upgrade is $1 million in total. Acid Lab itself, 750K, upgrade is 250K. So I'd recommend getting the Acid Lab as soon as you can. It is a super, super good investment. Now, next I have is the bunker. This you can honestly skip if you want, but it is a pretty good addition to have to your money grinding methods. Now, the thing with the bunker is if you own it and you get the upgrades for it, which will set you back, I'd say around anywhere from like 2.5 to 3 million if you buy the right bunker. That is, the bunker I'd recommend buying is on the left side of the map closest to the city. That'll set you back around 1.6, and the upgrades will set you back about like 1.5. So yeah, in total 3 million to get all the upgrades and all that. The thing with the bunker is if you have all the upgrades, you're able to buy one batch of supplies for 75k, let that build up. Might take like anywhere from like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. After that builds up, you sell it for 210,000. That's super easy profit. You don't even have to do anything for it besides buy the supplies. And on top of that, you'll get one vehicle when you sell it. Even on top of that, you have research for the bunker. Research isn't too important when you start off because you don't actually have anything unlocked yet, so you can't really do much with it. You don't have any vehicles to upgrade or any of that stuff. So just buy the bunker if you want to have that extra money flow when you're grinding for money. Now, this is more targeted for beginner players, like very beginner players. This is the auto shop. Now, this is not necessarily a good thing to have for money. It's not really meant for money so much as it is for like cars, I guess. The big reason you want this at the beginning is because when you get it, it allows you to upgrade vehicles to as much as you want. You have everything unlocked, literally everything except for street tires, I think. I don't remember, but those don't really matter too much. Now, it's very important to get upgrades as soon as you can. You're not going to want to, you know, not have certain things unlocked because having your cars fully upgraded really helps. Now, on top of that, you are able to make money with this business. If you buy all the upgrades, you'll be able to have cars to customize and your staff can deliver those cars. You can make anywhere from like 20 to 50k off of the cars that you customize and your staff delivers. You also have the exotic list where you can go out, find cars that are around the map that are blue dots. You can deliver those to the docks for 20k. And there's also a heist board in there. They're like little mini heists. They're super easy to do, not hard at all. If you just want to get this just to have those upgrades for the cars, you could also get it for the money. It's all around just a really good business to have. Now, next up I have is the CEO office. Now, you might be wondering, why this out of all things? Well, the main reason I'd say this is because you have access to cargo warehouses and vehicle warehouses. Now, CEO office, the cheapest one is 1 million, and the cheapest cargo warehouses, which is small, is about 200k. So if you want to level up fast, I'd recommend getting a cargo warehouse as soon as you can. They are super easy to do. And I'd also recommend having 2 small warehouses at the start because you can do them back to back. You'll have like a 3-minute cooldown after you start one cargo warehouse, like get crates and bring them back to your warehouse. That's why I'd recommend have 2 so you can do them back to back. As I said before, there's vehicle warehouses too. Now, these, you don't have to do them. You can stay away from vehicle warehouses. But if you just want to have that extra thing to do every now and then, drive around cars, go steal cars, sell them, you know, you can get a vehicle warehouse. Vehicle warehouses will set you back about 1.5 million. That's why I say you could kind of stay away from the cheapest ones, 1.5. But still, if you just want to have that extra thing where you can drive around all that, go for it. Now, this business is very dependent on if you have friends or not to play with. This is the arcade. Now, the arcade does have a very important thing that I'll talk about later on. As I said in the end of the video, there's important things. I'll talk about that later. Now, the arcade, the main thing about it is the Diamond Casino heist. Now, you can only do this heist if you have 2 or more people. So if you are a solo, I would stay away from this, only if you don't have access to money. There is an important thing, as I said in the arcade, but that is only if you have a good chunk of money and you can buy this just because you have a lot of money. Now, if you do have 2 people, I'd recommend buying this as soon as you can because the Diamond Casino heist is really good. Now, I don't really have any gameplay of the Diamond Casino heist because I don't have really anyone to play with. So that's all I have to really say about the arcade. If you want to get it, only get it with if you have 2 or more people. Now, the last thing you should have as a property is just a high-end apartment. It's nice to have these. You get a 10-car garage. You get a nice, house to have. They're super cheap. The cheapest high-end apartment's like 200k. You know, they're just nice to have. It's nice to have that property you can just go to, store your cars in. You know, you can't go wrong with a high-end apartment. It's just cheap. There's nothing wrong with it, and I would recommend buying one as soon as you can as a low level. All right, now quickly, let's talk about the businesses you should stay away from as a new player or a returning player. Now, first thing is the arena. Arena is a waste of time. Doesn't give you any money. Just a complete waste. Don't buy it. Now, next is any of the MC businesses. Now, these can be good if you know what you're doing, but these are honestly kind of a waste of time because they're not solo friendly. You're most likely going to have 2 or more people to actually use them right. So just stay away from any of the MC businesses, and the way you actually get MC businesses is if you buy a clubhouse, go on the computer there. They're basically all listed there. So if you buy a clubhouse, use this computer, don't buy any of the properties in there. You can buy a clubhouse, that's fine because they're pretty cheap, but just stay away from the MC businesses. Now, next is a penthouse. The reason you want to stay away from a penthouse is because they're kind of pointless. They don't serve any purpose. The only purpose they really serve, I guess, is to have another garage, and you have access to the high roller like tables and stuff in the casino, and that's really all they got. They don't got much. You pretty much buy these when you have a lot of money to spend. Now, the next thing I have is hangars. Hangars are good if you want to buy aircrafts. For the business part of it, it's terrible. Don't buy it if you want to make money. Not a good idea. Now, if you want to buy it to store aircrafts, do it. It's great to have for aircrafts because that's the only way how you can get aircrafts in this game and upgrade them is through the hangar. So if you have the money, I'd buy a hangar, but if you're wanting it to, use money for it, don't do it. Now, the nightclub is also here. Now, any people that are watching this that actually have a nightclub and know how it works, you're like, what the hell? What are you thinking? Having it, don't buy? Well, the reason I have this is because for any people that are just getting the game and see the nightclub and are wondering, should you get it or should you not? Well, the answer to that is you shouldn't at the beginning. It is a late game property to own, late business, one of the last things you buy. I would recommend buying it when you have pretty much all the other businesses, and I'll explain later about like why you should buy it later on. I don't want to go into detail too much now because I still have a lot of things to talk about. So if you want to know more about it, I'll have a timestamp later on in the video. Now, the last thing you want to stay away from is a facility. Now, facility, they don't really serve much of a purpose anymore. They have the Doomsday Heist, sure. Doomsday Heist can be good, but for the new players and all that, they're not friendly towards new beginner players. Facility and the Doomsday Heist, they are meant more for people that actually know what they're doing. And as I said at the beginning, Agency and Kasaka, they're so much easier to do. The VIP contract, Cayo Perico, the Acid Lab, they're all just so much easier ways of obtaining money than the Doomsday Heist. On top of that, you're going to need 2 or more people for the Doomsday Heist as well. Alright, now moving on to vehicles. These are not aircrafts. These are exclusive vehicles. At the very end, I will have aircrafts though. Now, the first set of vehicles I want to talk about is bikes. Now, bikes can range anywhere from like literally dirt cheap, 5,000 I think, or 15,000, all the way up to like 3 million now, which is crazy. Now, if you're a new beginner and you don't have much money, I would recommend the 2 bikes I would really recommend at the beginning that are, still amazing. That doesn't really matter at the beginning. Late, doesn't matter. They're insane bikes. First one is the Batty 801. This, I believe, will set you back about 15,000. Literally nothing. No money at all. Dirt cheap. And it's one of the fastest bikes in the game, I think. For its price, it's absolutely insane. Now, the next bike I'd recommend, which I don't really see this on many lists, is the Manchez. Now, why did I pick the Manchez? Well, the reason I did this is because it has an infinite wheelie. Now, what that means is you literally can just do a wheelie almost at any speed. And wheelies are really, really good because they give you a lot of speed. And plus, this bike is just fun to use. It's good to get around the map with, and I think from memory it's like 100k. It actually might be cheaper, around like 60k. I don't quite remember, but I know that it's really not that expensive. You can afford it super cheap. Now let's go over sports cars. Now, as I said, I'd have 2 vehicles for each category. Now this one I have 3. One of them is the LG RH8. Now, if you're a new player, I would recommend you link your account or sign up for Rockstar Social Club or whatever. And once you do that, you'll have access to the LG RH8, which is literally going to be free if you sign up for Social Club. It's a pretty good car. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's not super fast or anything, but for it being a free car, you go for it. I mean, it's free. Why would you not do it? It's just there. Go for it. Now, the next 2 I have are pretty pricey vehicles. The first one I have is the Pariah. Now, this is just a really fast sports car. I don't know if it's the fastest in the game. I don't know, but I know that it's super fast. I'll say back about 1.4 million, which is, pretty expensive, but it's all around just a great sports car. I recommend getting it. Now, after that, I have the GTO. The 2 most like iconic sports cars from, a few years ago. They're like the 2 fastest sports cars. Now, the GTO will say back about 2 million, I believe. Now, this is like the best sports car you could possibly buy, and for 2 million, I'd say that it is a great car to get. I believe it's the fastest sports car in the game and the best around the track. So if you want a super reliable sports car, get the GTO. It is great. Moving on to supercars. Now, the first supercar I have here is the Devastate, whatever you want to call it. Now, this supercar is only about 1.7 million, so it's a little on the cheaper end, but it's still really good. This is a very fast supercar. I think it's in the top 10 around the track for, supercars and all that. It's just super great. It looks great, sounds great, drives great, has a high top speed. It's all around just a great supercar. Now, the next supercar I have is the 811. I don't see this really much on lists. I think people might have forgotten about the 811, but the reason I have the 811 on here is because it is super cheap for how good it is. It's about 1.1 million. It's a really fast supercar. I remember, I think a few years ago, people used to have modded versions of this car, and it literally would beat every car in the game. It was like a broken car, and it is just so damn fast for, how dirt cheap it is. Okay, not dirt cheap, but it's 1.1 million, which is, pretty cheap for today's standards of cars like 3 million. So if you want a really reliable supercar, get either the Devastate or the 811. It's up to you. If you want a Porsche, or if you want whatever the hell the Devastate is, I don't know what it is, but either one of those, they're great cars to own. Alright, let's talk about muscle cars. Now, if you're wanting reliable muscle cars, I would either go with the Hellfire or the Click. Now, the Hellfire obviously is is just I think it's the Dodge Demon, I think, or it's just a Dodge Challenger. I don't really know. But the Hellfire is one of the fastest muscle cars in the game, and it is super, super reliable. So if you want a really good muscle car, I'd get the Hellfire. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. It looks great, sounds great, fast, you know. And then you have the Click. The Click, you know, you'll look at it and you're like, what is this car? You don't really think much of it. You think it's not that great. But I believe it is either the fastest muscle car on the track or one of the best. It is a very, very good muscle car to have. It might not look the best, might not sound the best, might not have the best top speed or anything. It's 909,000, and also the Hellfire is like 745k. So, you know, these are, you know, pretty cheap when it comes to today's standards. But the Click is just a very, very good handling car. So if you want a fast muscle car, get the Hellfire. If you want a good handling muscle car, get the Click. So let's talk about off-road vehicles. They are a very important thing because a lot of the time you're gonna be off-road. Maybe not all the time, but off-road vehicles are really, really good to have when you need them. And the first thing I have on here is the Camacho. This thing is probably the best truck you can possibly buy when it comes to off-roading. This thing can almost go up a 90-degree angle. It is so insane. This thing looks great, has good acceleration, has good traction. It's great off-road. It's just all around amazing. And same with the second car I have, which is the Jugular. It's literally just like a sports car version of the Camacho. It's the fastest sports car off-road, I believe, and it's just all around great. I recommend getting it. You can make the Jugular look like a normal sports car, or you can make it look like a rally car. It's just great. I recommend getting both of these if you don't have them already. They're just amazing vehicles. When you're going around in like public sessions, you obviously are going to need armored vehicles. And the two I have here, one is an armored Kuruma. Now this won't protect you from rockets or anything, but it'll completely protect you from bullets. It is just such a good car. It'll set you back about 525k. You know, not too much money. That's honestly pretty cheap. It's a great car to have. I believe if you're just starting out, it's 625k because you need to complete Fleeka job, heist, or whatever. But still, it's a great car nonetheless. It is literally 100% bulletproof. Explosive, you know, it'll blow up in one explosive, but you know, just get it. It's just a great car to have just to drive around and protect you from bullets. Now next I have the Night Shark. It's kind of like the opposite of the Kuruma. It doesn't really have great window protection, you know, bullet protection, but it has great rocket protection. I don't remember how many rockets it can take. I think it's upwards of like 18 or like near 25. I can't remember. It's somewhere in like the 18 to like 28 range. I cannot remember for the life of me, but it can take so many rockets. It's amazing. So pretty much when you're going around a public session, you're not really gonna get blown up if you're in the Night Shark. And the Night Shark is also like 1.1 million. It's really, really cheap. It's not expensive at all. I'd recommend getting this as soon as you can. Now you could also consider these as armored vehicles, but they're kind of different. Now these are Amani Tech vehicles. The two I have here, one is the Buffalo STX and the next is the Champion. They are super, super similar. Now there is, you know, many Amani Tech vehicles, but these are the two I have and the two that I know. I don't really know any others, but you know, one's a muscle car, the other's a supercar. Kind of depends on like who you are. Now the good thing about Amani Tech vehicles is you're able to put armor on them and a missile lock-on jammer. Once you put the armor on them, they can tank like, you know, 12 rockets, I think. And with the homing launcher, or with the homing lock-on jammer, they can't lock onto you, so you're pretty much almost going to be immune. They also have bulletproof windows, which, you know, could only take like 16 bullets, but still, that's pretty good. When you're just driving by past someone, they can't really shoot you out of this thing. So they're just great vehicles. You can't be locked onto, and they take a lot of rockets, so you're almost going to be immune when you're driving around in these things. Moving on to weaponized. Now, these two things are super expensive, but they are so helpful. First one I have is the Torador. This will set you back about 3.6 million, which is a lot, like a lot, but it's so helpful for so many things. First, it's a submarine car. You can go underwater. That's great. Now next, it has a boost that's very fast. It recharges quick, and it makes the car just go, you know, fast because it's a boost. It has infinite homing missiles. I believe it has the second best homing missiles in the game, so it is great for, you know, fighting people with rockets. It also has machine guns, but those are, you know, weak. And I think that's really it for the Torador. I can't remember what else it has, but it's just really good. It goes underwater, has boost, missiles, it's fast, you know, it's great. Next, I have the Oppressor Mark II. Everyone knows this as the griefer vehicle, but I personally don't care what you think. Now, if you want the Oppressor Mark II as a way, you know, just grinding money, it's so fast. It gets you on the map quick. It doesn't have the best homing missiles because it got nerfed. It has countermeasures and all that stuff. The main reason I get this is because it's just fast. It's a fast way to get around the map. It's efficient. It's good to, you know, fight NPCs and all that. So if you want to get, you know, a really reliable vehicle, get the Oppressor Mark II. Now, you're gonna need a terabyte with this. I did mention mention that the Oppressor Mark II, to get the trade price for it for 2.9 million, you are going to need a terabyte, which will set you back about 1.3 million. You need a nightclub for that, so it's about 1.1 million. So to give you basically a rough estimate of how much it'll cost you to get the Oppressor Mark II, it's anywhere from like 5 to 7 million. If you want to upgrade it, that is. If you don't want to, that's fine. You don't need to have a terabyte or a nightclub. All right, now here I have aircrafts. Now, one, you should have a Sparrow. If you're gonna do KO Perico heist, get the sock and all that, get the Sparrow along with it. It is helpful. It's basically gonna help you complete all the preps and all that. Without a Sparrow, it's almost impossible to really do the preps because they will take so damn long. So get a Sparrow as soon as possible. It's the fastest helicopter in the game. Has not the greatest homing missiles, but it still has homing missiles. It has countermeasures too, which is pretty nice. Now, the next thing I wanted to include a plane and a helicopter, and the plane I included was a Rogue. I don't really hear many people talk about the Rogue that much. I think it's kind of slept on. But the Rogue is a super fast plane. For it being, I think, a propeller plane, so it's not jet powered or anything, it is fast. It's pretty cheap. I think the trade price is 1.1 million, I believe, so it is really cheap. You're gonna need a hangar for this, but it also has explosive rounds, which are great to have, and it's just fast. Like, there's not really anything negative about the Rogue. You can spawn in near you, take off quickly, homing missiles, explosive rounds. You can't go wrong with it. All right, so I have two honorable mentions for vehicles. The first one is the MOC. The reason I have the MOC here is because it is just helpful all around. You're able to do weapon workshop, vehicle workshop, personal storage, command center, all that snazzy stuff. It's just great to have. And if you want to survive in a public session, this can tank like 70 rockets. It's crazy. I would honestly get this when you can. You're gonna need a bunker for it. I don't really have anything negative at the MOC. I mean, it kind of is getting a little outdated because all the stuff it has you can access in different areas, but the MOC is just nice to have it when you need it. Now next I have the Phantom Wedge. Now this would not even be here if it wasn't for KO Perico being nerfed. If you're gonna do KO Perico, there's very specific setups you need to do, and one of those setups involves you getting a trailer with a boat on it. And really the only way to do this mission quick is with the Phantom Wedge. Phantom Wedge will set you back about 2 million if you get the trade price for it, and if not, it's like 2.5. If you're not doing KO Perico, don't get this, but if you are, I'd recommend getting this, and I will have a guide, I guess. I'll make a guide for the new KO Perico and how the Phantom Wedge is involved in all that stuff. All right, so now we're moving on to the very important things that I mentioned earlier in the video that'll be later in the video. Now the first thing is going back to the arcade. I said there was an important thing, but I didn't want to talk about it then, but I'll talk about it now. This is the Master Terminal. Now, the only reason I'd say you shouldn't get this as a beginner is because it relies pretty much on every other business that came before this. So cargo, vehicle warehouses, all the MC businesses, hangar. I can't remember everything else. There's like a few more things. I think the bunker is another one. I think that's all of them actually. But the Master Terminal is really good because you can access every business that I just mentioned in one spot. You don't have to go to each individual business, to buy supplies and all that stuff. You can access them all here. Now, this is about like 1.4 million on top of the like 1.1 million for the cheapest arcade, which I recommend you do not buy the cheapest arcade. It sucks. But yeah, the Master Terminal, once you have the money for it and have all the businesses, I would recommend getting this because it is super, super helpful. Now, let's move on to the nightclub, which earlier I said I'll explain it later why you shouldn't buy earlier on. Now, the reason you shouldn't buy this early on is because it relies on other businesses. What I mean by that is for it to actually work and produce product, you're gonna need these 5 businesses: cargo warehouse, bunker, the powder lockup, which you should know what I'm talking about, crystal lab, which you should know what I'm talking about, counterfeit cash factory as well. Now, when you have all 5 of those, the nightclub will work flawlessly. It'll make you, I think, 100k every hour. That might be wrong. Once you have all that, you also have 5 technicians you can buy. Once you buy all those technicians, you're able to assign them to these 5 things that I have now on screen, and it'll generate all that money. Now, when you're selling product for the nightclub, you're also going to need to buy 2 other vehicles if you sell at a way higher price. You're going to need the Mule Custom and the Pounder Custom. You don't need to upgrade them. I don't think it doesn't really matter if you upgrade them or not. Only if you're selling a public session does it really matter. But once you have these 2, you really don't need to do anything else for the nightclub. It just completely works on its own. I'd also recommend getting the upgrades. You don't need security. That never really matters. But let's talk about popularity real quick in the nightclub. Now, popularity is important because there's a safe in the nightclub, can generate all the way up to 250,000 in the safe, which is easy because it doesn't even require anything besides keeping your popularity up. Now, you'll get 50,000 every 48 minutes if your popularity is fully up. And the way to do this is either when you go in your nightclub and you'll see these blue dots, you have to basically deal with people, and you know, it'll pretty much tell you what you have to do. If it isn't a little cutscene where you're throwing them out, you pretty much have to drive them somewhere. But another way of doing this is calling Tony and requesting popularity missions. Missions really aren't that hard to do. The game pretty much tells you everything you need to do. So if you just follow the game, pretty easy. And once you get that popularity bar up, all the way up, it should be, you know, generating money pretty quick. The easiest way to check the popularity without having to go to your nightclub is just call Tony, and when you see request popularity, it should tell you what your percentage is at. And as I said, this business relies on other businesses. So if you're looking to buy this, I'd only buy this as one of your last businesses when you have the 5 businesses I mentioned before. Here is my opinion on what you should get first. Now, first, you should get the agency, as I stated before. It has just very good perks, and, you know, the VIP contract, you can make about $1 million every hour and a half, and you have, you know, pay for hit security contracts and all that stuff. And after you do that, I'd recommend getting the Kasaka when you have the price, when you have the money. Take about $2.2 million to get the Kasaka, and you should have the Sparrow with that too. It's another like 1.7 or something, I can't remember. Once you have all that, Kasaka, Sparrow, agency, you're pretty much good to make money. And if you don't really know what to do with the agency or Kasaka, you know, I have videos on those, as I said before, so if you need help, only come in the description. But after you get those two, you kind of just go down the list, as I said. You can, you know, get the properties, what I said, or get cars. I recommend getting the agency, Kasaka, and then going, you know, kind of in the car list I had. You know, kind of just what you want. Like, you don't necessarily need to get what I said, but, you know, they're just recommendations for, you know, earlier on in the game, what you should get early on, and, you know, just vehicles that are reliable. Obviously, there's, you know, better vehicles out there that I said, but, you know, those are the ones I thought of right then and there. I have a lot of experience with all those vehicles. So if there's anything else you want to know, let me know. I might make a video on it. I don't have anything else to say, so that's pretty much it. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn the bell notification on if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.